basics of Java, object-oriented programming, and I also talked about how to basically work with WebDriver, how to download the libraries, how to initialize WebDriver, what are interfaces. WebDriver is an interface, I talked about that, right? And I took a simple Java program with the help of interfaces wherein I was opening a browser and I was navigating to a website. Okay, now I'll move forward with this, right? And I will create a new folder called day2. Fine. Now today, what I'm going to take is what happens when you land to a website. You want to detect an object on the page, you want to detect an element on the page, what happens? Practically everything on a page is called as an object. If you ever talk to any automation guy, or if you ever hear automation guys talking to each other, you'll actually hear this word very frequently, that the object is not found, or object is not visible, or how do I get this object, the properties of object are not available. So practically everything on a browser is an object. If I am on a website, hold on. If I am on a website like gmail.com, right, practically everything on this page is an object. This text is an object, this input field is an object, this button is an object, everything is an object. Okay, and suppose I'll execute a very simple test. I'll talk about a very simple test, that is, you need to open up Gmail and you need to enter username, password, and click on the sign in button with the help of Selenium. Right. Now many of you might be knowing how to do this, you would be having a knowledge on this, right? But apart from understanding how to do this, the knowledge of HTML language is very important. All the web pages in this world, web pages are made in HTML. If you right click on any web page, you can actually get the page source of that web page. The page source has this HTML language. In HTML language, you have got various tags. All these written in red color, they are all tags. A tag starts and a tag ends, always, right? So if you have a good knowledge of HTML, then what happens is that learning Selenium is very easy, because Selenium works on the HTML code of the page. It works on the tabs. Fine. Hold on, somebody is not able to hear me. Okay, just a minute. Somebody is not able to hear me. Okay, so basically you have to have a good knowledge on this HTML, right? Now, how to learn this? To learn HTML language, the easiest way is go to the site, Google, and type. It's just a 10-minute thing, okay? HTML tutorial. You'll get this link, and if you give 10 to 15 minutes to this tutorial, just to the initial topics, right, this will save a lot of time in Selenium for you, plus it will make Selenium easier for you. Okay, so I'll help you learn this tool, I'll help you learn HTML a little bit. What I'll do is I will make an Excel file called as html.xls. Now, in this I'm going to create some columns. Like we'll write a column called component, tag name. Hold on, you'll come to know what I am doing. Mandatory attribute and optional attribute. Okay. Now, on a HTML page, on an average, what kind of components do you have? Right, we'll actually talk about all those things. For example, in HTML we have a link. Fine. Right. We have an input field in which we write the data. We have a drop list. We have a checkbox. Fine. We have radio buttons. We have got normal text on the page. There sometimes you get images. Fine. So these are generic components which you will encounter on almost all the web pages. Right. Apart from this, sometimes you have got something known as iframes. You have got web tables which are not visible to the normal eye. These things are not the last to 11th and 12th row. These things are not available to the normal human eye. Okay. So basically these are the generic HTML components. Okay. Now every HTML component has a tag name associated with it. It has a list of mandatory and optional attributes. Based on the tag name, mandatory attributes and optional attributes, we identify the objects in Selenium. Okay. Now let's go further with this. What you should do is, first of all, before moving further, you should install something known as Firebug in Mozilla. Okay. Firebug in Mozilla helps you to easily identify objects. Right. You just go to Firebug and type. Just go to Mozilla and type download Firebug, and just go to the first link, and you will see that once you download it, once you go to this page, you will see Add to Firefox button out here. When you click on this Add to Firefox button, make sure that you open this link in Firefox first of all, right? When you click on it, you will get a message like this, downloading, and it will download. Basically, you have to install it in Firefox as an add-on. Once you install it, Firefox will start, and in Firefox on the top, you will see an icon like this. Okay, this is the Firebug icon. Or if you go to Tools, you will get the Firebug option over here, Open Firebug. If you click on this, you will get a window like this. Fine, and in this window there will be a arrow out here. The arrow out here. This is the arrow. Fine. If you click on this arrow, and after that you move your mouse, you select HTML from here. Okay. You click on this arrow and move your mouse on the page. You will get. Suppose I move my mouse to this login link. So you will get the source code of this login link. This Firebug will highlight. Hold on, I'll just improve the text, increase the text of my Firebug. Okay, hold on. Okay. The question being asked is there a Firebug for other browsers? The answer is no. There is no Firebug. If you want to inspect elements in Chrome, then in Chrome, suppose I am on the gmail.com homepage. Okay, I want to inspect any element. In Chrome, you have got the feature that you press F12 of your keyboard and automatically this window will appear, right? And if you right click on any element and you select inspect element, the code of that element will be present. So this is something like Firebug in Chrome. It is already there, it is already present. You don't have to install it or something. Okay, it's known as a Chrome inspector, right? You don't have to install it, it's already there. You just have to right click on the element and select the option inspect element. That particular code will be highlighted. Okay, in case of IE, again, suppose I open my IE and I press, this is i6 actually, I am on a server OS, no it's not there in it. In i8 if you press F12, okay, please note in i8, if you, hold on, actually press F8, that will lead you to the IE developer tool, which is again like Mozilla or Firebug. In Chrome you have to press F8 again, you will get the Chrome inspector, and if in Mozilla you have to install Firebug, okay, and you can inspect your web page, right? So I think this is good enough information for all three browsers, right? Now working with Selenium, I always prefer to make my scripts first on Mozilla and then I run them on all the different browsers. This is because Selenium works the best with Mozilla and it's easy to inspect the elements with Mozilla, right? Now let us go to again the gmail.com page, fine, and inspect the username field over here. Okay, if you look at the username field, or if you look at the username field on any website, say I am on the website in.rediff.com, okay, on this website I have to log in by writing something in this username field. If I inspect this username field as well, you will see that every text field on all the web pages, it starts with the tag called input. This is the tag name. The tag name is something which comes after the conical bracket. So the tag name for the input field is input, okay, and there are a set of attributes associated with it: ID, class, type, and name. These four are the attributes with this tag. For example, this is a tag called span and class is an attribute. This is a tag called div and class is an attribute associated with it. So every tag has certain set of attributes associated with it. Now out of this, right, okay, I hope it's clear, fine. Similarly, if you look at any link, for example, there is a forgot password link. This forgot password link has a tag name A, anchor tag. This is known as anchor tag. Most of you might be knowing this. All the links have got this particular tag. The tag name is anchor tag. Hold on, yeah, okay. And in case of a drop list, fine, suppose you are on the website, any website having drop list like quicker.com, okay. On the home page of this website you will see this drop down, fine. If you look at the XPATHS of, if you inspect this drop down in Mozilla, you will get that the tag name is select. Okay, so this is the tag name, select, fine. Now checkbox. If you go here and in rediff.com, this is the checkbox, right? If you investigate the checkbox, then for the checkbox the tag name is input. So for all the checkboxes you will have the tag name as input. From my experience, I know that for radio buttons also you have got a tag name called input. For text, you don't have a generic tag. There are many tags. Sometimes it's under div, sometimes para tag p, sometimes span tag, okay, sometimes h1, h2, h3, okay. So there are various tags, right? So yeah, text is like a label. Sometimes you also have a label tag, right? So there are various tags. There is no fixed tag in which text can come. And Selenium actually investigates these tags. It works on the source page. It works on the source of the page. That's why Selenium works on multiple browsers, because all the browsers will have the source. So that's why it becomes easy to work on multiple browsers, right? If you talk about a tool like QTP never works on the source of the page, right? And that is one of the reasons that Selenium is only for web-based applications, because it works on the page source. Okay? In case of an image, for an image you will always see the tag name to be like img, right? In all the images, for example, there is an image of rediff over here. This particular image, say money image or this rediff image, this has a tag name called img. Okay, so these are the tag names of very generic objects which are there on the web pages. Fine. Now there are a set of mandatory and set of optional attributes with every object. Right. Now, for example, if I look at a link, say images link in Firebug, yeah, this is the one, right? Now with a link you will always find a mandatory attribute called href. Href is there with all the links and it points towards the URL which will open when you click on that particular link. Okay, so href is a mandatory attribute with a link. A symbolizes that this is a link and href tells you that the URL which will open when you click on that link. Okay, now input field. If you have an input box on a page, then you will always find, like this is an input box, there is an attribute called type equals to text. This attribute signifies that it's a link. Fine. Now all of us, we know that input field, checkbox and radio buttons, they have the same tag name. So they differ in the mandatory attribute. If you look at a checkbox, then the type of that tag is actually, the type attribute is equal to checkbox for that. And in case of a radio button, the type is always equals to radio. This is the difference. The tag name for input field, checkbox and radio button is same, but the mandatory attributes are different. In case of a text, there is nothing, right? In case of an image, if you look at any image, for example, I look at this rediff.com image, there is a mandatory attribute called source, which points towards the location from which the image is actually coming. Right? For example, in this case, this is the location. So if you copy this location and you paste this location out here, you will actually get a blank page. Hold on. Okay, they have actually they have a lot of security around their logo. That's why you are not able to get the image. Hold on. For example, I go to Gmail. Fine. In Gmail, if you look at the Google image, fine, it is actually coming from this URL. So if you copy this image and go here, you will get it. You see that? This is actually the image. This is coming from this particular URL. So in image there is a tag called source which holds the location of the image. That means the URL from which the image is coming up. Okay. So these are the components, these are the tags, and these are the mandatory attributes. Okay, and some attributes are optional. Okay. Now what are the optional attributes like? They are like ID, name, fine, class. These are the most common optional attributes which can be associated with any object. Right. For example, if I look at my Gmail page and if I look at the username field has an ID. The ID is given by the developer. Generally, ID uniquely identifies the object. Okay. Value is again an optional attribute in this. Name is there. You see that? Name is there out here. So, right. For example, in case of a button, this is the sign-in button out here. It has an ID. It has a class as well. There is a class associated with this button. This is actually the CSS class. So these are optional attributes. You might find them, you might not find them, but if you find them, it is easier to identify the objects on the page. And basically in Selenium, most of the times we identify the object using the tag name and the optional attribute. We very rarely use the mandatory attributes to identify the object. Okay, now how do we identify the object? That's the biggest question. Right, now if I make a simple Java program out here, I'll go to the properties and add the libraries of Selenium like I had added yesterday. The jar files. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to ask me the questions. Okay, so great. Now out here in day 2, I'll make a new class called gmail.java. Okay. So what we are going to do is that we are going to open a Firefox. We'll write over here WebDriver, driver equals to new Firefox driver. We'll open Firefox and we will write driver.get http gmail.com. So we have landed on Gmail page. Now after landing on Gmail page, I need to identify the username field and write into it. So if you write in Selenium driver.find element, this is a function in the WebDriver interface which is capable of finding any element on a web page. Okay, if you go to your Google Docs, the Java Docs, and you type over here download Selenium, if you go here and scroll down, you will see the Java Doc location. If somebody is asking me to download this, I'll give him the download link as well. I prefer watching it online. Fine. Now out here, if you look at the WebDriver interface, this is the WebDriver interface. Fine. Now in this, you have got this function find element. Technically what is written, it's written that this function returns you the reference of something known as web element. Okay, and web element is actually an interface, right? And practically everything on the page falls under web element. For example, a link is a web element, an input box is a web element, everything is a web element on the page. You can perform following functions with web element: clear, click, say, get location, get size, get text, is displayed, is enabled, is selected, send key, this is used to write something in the input field. So these are generic functions which you can perform with any element on a web page. They all fall under web element. And who returns you web element? Find element function returns you web element. So what I'll do is I'll write over here web element username equals to, import this web element as well, driver.find element. Now on which criteria you need to find the element? If you look at the find element function, it expects by class reference inside it. There is a by class, and yesterday I told you the by class has got the criteria on which you can identify element. If I write by dot, you will get all the criteria. Fine. So I'll write over here by the, you can select what, something. Suppose I select by the ID. If you look at your Gmail page, then the username field out here has this particular ID. Okay, sorry, has this particular, I got into Fireball, I'm sorry about that. Has this particular ID. Okay, you just copy this ID and paste it over here. Okay, so driver.find element by the ID and the ID which you are giving over here, that is the ID email. Fine, so it will find that particular element and this will be your username. Now if you write over here username dot, you will get lot of functions. These are the functions from web element interface. One of the functions is send keys. If you look at the documentation of this function, it tells you that in web element interface, this send keys function is used to simulate typing into an element. So if I type over here username.sendKeys hello, hello will be typed in the username field. If I run this code, so I have identified the username by the optional attribute ID out here. Okay, and if I am running this code, it goes to Gmail and types in hello in the input field. Okay, same code if you try to make it work on Chrome on IE by just including the driver executable paths by writing system.setProperty, the same code will definitely work. Okay, now if you have the password field, web element password, then I can write driver.find element by, if you inspect the password field, you will be lucky enough that the developer has given the ID to the password field. So you can write over here by the password and extract the password and you can type in any password. Okay, and similarly, if you want to extract the button, sign in button, okay, if you look at the sign in button out here, then sign in button has again got an ID. You can copy this ID and paste it here and password.sendKeys, and you can write sign in button dot click. So click is again a function under the web element interface. So first you have to extract the web element and then you have to fire operation on it. If you run this code, you will see that it runs and types in username, password and clicks on the sign in button. Okay, now it's fine, right? Now what if the ID is not there with the element? How do I identify it? There are other ways as well. There's a tag called, there's a property called name. If the developer has given the name to an element, you can give the name property as well. If you look at the Firebug and inspect this element, you will see that there is a name attribute associated with the email field and the name is again email. You can use the name as well. But what if the developer has not given anything, no ID, no name, nothing to identify an object? For example, I need to read this text on the page, a Google approach to email. If you look at this text, then this text is in h2 tag and h2 tag has got no attribute, nothing. Okay, how do I do that? So for that we use either XPATHS or CSS selectors. That is the best way around. Now I'm going to talk about XPath right now in the beginning with you, then I'll talk about CSS selectors. Basically, what is an XPath? Okay, XPath is like the address of the element on the web page. For example, if you go to a very simple page, which is the login page of my site, Yeah, Gaurav, do you want to ask a question? You can ask me on Skype, or I have unmuted you. You can ask me the question through this thing. Is everybody able to hear you? Okay, fine. Fine. Yeah, Kumar, you can also ask me a question. Fine. And or you can type on the WebEx chat. Okay, no sound was coming. Maybe there was some temporary issue. Okay, everybody was not able to hear me for a minute. Okay, okay, fine. I'll repeat. Maybe some temporary issue in the internet. Right. There's a very fast rain going on out here today. The wind is very fast, so maybe it's some temporary connection issue. So now, what I was telling you was, you can identify objects with the help of XPATHS, and you need experience to form XPATHs. XPATH is something which will only come to you with experience, right? And there are various types of XPATHs. One is complete XPATH and one is known as partial XPATH. Okay. Now first we will talk about basically what an XPATH is. Okay. Because if an object is not having an ID, if the object is not having a name, then we have got these two options. Either you use CSS selectors or you use XPaths. Fine. To use complete XPaths, right? What are complete XPaths? I'll tell you. Suppose you use this website, which is mine, and you need to identify the username field. Okay. Now, in the username field, right, out here, I have, this is starting from, the page starts from the HTML tag, right? So what I'll do is, I'll write over here, right? I'll write over here the HTML tag. Inside it, there is a body tag, right? Because the input field in the end, it lies under the body tag. So body. Under the body tag, right, you have this division tag, div tag, because eventually I have to pass through the tags and reach this input field. Okay, so this is the div tag. Now in this div tag, I have this form tag, fine, and this is the form tag. Right. In the form tag, I have this table tag, right, and under this table, I have the table body tag, tbody. Fine. Now my object is lying under the first tr tag. There are 5 tr tags under the table body. I am interested in the first tr tag. Okay, yes, Priya, you have to trace the elements, right? So this is the first tr tag. Okay. Under the first tr tags, I have got 1, 2, 3, 4 td tags, and I am interested in the third td tag because the input field is inside the third td tag. So I'll write over here td3. And under the third td tag, I have the input tag, and this is the input tag. So this becomes my complete XPath. This XPath represents the address of the element on the web page. Okay, so right, this represents the address of the element on the web page. Now, if you use this XPath to identify the object, then you will be in a certain mess, because if tomorrow the developer adds one single tag in this complete XPath, then your XPath will change and you will have to modify your code. Rather, all your XPaths will change if you are using this kind of XPath. But this kind of XPath is very, very accurate. Fine. The drawback is that if you use this to identify the object in Selenium, your scripts, they are subject to heavy changes if something changes in the application. Okay. Now, for avoiding this, we use the partial XPath. But before I go over to partial XPath, I'll tell you that you don't have to make the XPath like this. You never make the XPath like this. What you do is that you use FirePath in Firebug. Okay. So yes, it's like that. Fine. So if you go to Google and okay. Is there any difference between finding the element by XPath and finding any limitations? No, there are no limitations. Obviously, the difference is there. If you are finding the element with XPath internally, Selenium will invoke some other functions. If you are finding element by ID or name, some other functions. But practically, you can use anything. It's not like certain things have got limitations or something. But yes, there is another thing known as CSS selector. Okay, now every web page these days is CSS based. So this CSS selector works very fast on IE. If you execute your scripts on IE8, you will notice that the scripts execute a little slow. If you use ID or XPath or something. With XPath, the script execute little slow on IE8. But if you actually use CSS selector, which I'll talk about CSS selectors. If you use CSS selectors, then the scripts they execute quite fast. Fine. So CSS selector, I'll talk about them. Right. But if you compare ID or XPath and all, there is no much difference. Okay. Now, fine. Out here, just go to Google. Okay. Make sure Firebug is installed. Right. Now, if Firebug is installed, open Firefox and type download FirePath. FirePath is an add-on which helps you to determine XPaths in in Mozilla. Fine. You click on Add to Firefox, it will get installed as an add-on. You restart your browser, and in the end, you will see a section like this inside your Firefox called FirePath. Okay. Now this section out here called FirePath will give you the XPaths. If you select this option, generate absolute XPaths, and if I go to the website, say gmail.com, then if I move my mouse, I will get the full XPath starting from the HTML tag. Okay, right? Now there is another kind of XPath which is known as the partial XPath. Okay, that XPath, if you uncheck this, you will get that XPath. For example, if I want to get the XPath for this particular username, then as per Firebug, this is the XPath. Please ignore the dot in the beginning. Okay, then as per Firebug, this is the XPath. Okay, // star means any browser. Okay, @ID equals to email. That means any element on any element. Star means any element. @ID equals to email means that it's any element with the ID email. Instead of star, if I type input, then this means that an input tag on the page with the ID email.